Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Slauson. We are on page 27 in our chapter 2 packet, and I just need to show you that we are going to be using our graphing calculator. So one thing that you want to look for is a graphing calculator if you don't have one. So we have discussed that there's the option of TI-84 on the calculator. I'm just in my app store. And this is the one that most of you have been using. There are still some quirks, and I don't know if there are going to be quirks with what we're doing today. But if you keep scrolling down, you will eventually see for $4.99, the TI has a graphing calculator. So keep that in mind if you don't have one and you're running into problems. You might have to pay the $4.99. So anyway, get some graphing calculator on there. There are some others on here. I just don't know how all great they work. All right? Okay, so anyway, I have my graphing calculator, and we're going to get started. Again, I'm on page 27. The other thing that you might want to have out is in your chapter 1 packet, somewhere in there, I think it was on page 41, maybe it's at the end. There's a page that says calculator cheat sheet, and it looks like this. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. But I'm going to be referring to this. We are going to be talking about how do you enter this bottom part into your graphing calculator. So you might want to get that out. And I think it's on page 41 according to this, but I could be wrong. There will be a copy of this in our folder for week 11. All right, so let's go ahead and get back. I need my graphing calculator. And we are going to be working on what's known as quadratic regression. You did linear regression in your freshman year, so it's been a while, and we're going to revisit it here. So what happens with regression is it just takes a bunch of data and it regresses it. And for quadratic, it's going to kind of fine-tune those points so that it becomes this parabola shape. It might not be quite a parabola shape, but it's going to force it to become a parabola shape. And to do this, you need at least 3 sets of data points for this to happen. So we're going to practice. I've got my calculator turned on, and when it does it, it's going to create the equation that best matches our data, this parabola shape. So if you look, a meteorologist creates a parabola to predict the temperature tomorrow, where X is the hours after midnight and Y is the temperature in Celsius. So I need to find a pen. I don't know where I put them all, but here we go. I found them. Okay, so what I need to do first is I'm going to take this data and I'm going to enter it into my calculator so that I can write a function that models this temperature over time. So looking at the calculator, what you'll need to do is you will be pressing this stat button here. And when you press that stat button, we're going to go under edit. So edit is marked, 1 is highlighted. I can just hit enter. And you need to have these lists in front of you, L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. So first I want to address what if you don't have a list, okay? So if you don't have a list, you need to I just need for you to have L1 and L2. So what I've done is I've deleted L1. So what I want to do is I'm going to insert L1 and I'm going to do it in front of L2. So I'll hit L2, or so it's highlighted, and you're going to hit the second, and you're going to hit the delete button, so it's going to insert. And if you come down here, you're going to notice that you see L1, L2 in blue. So to get that blue to happen, you're going to press the second, so the arrow pops up. You're going to press 1, so L1 pops in there, right? And I'm going to hit enter, and now I've got L1. The other thing is some of you might have some data entered in here, and you never want to delete a list, because if you delete a list, then that L1 is gone. What you want to do is just go up to L1, so it's highlighted, and you want to hit clear, enter, and it will clear out the list. So clear out any list, but especially L1 and L2. All right? Okay, so going back to this page, we're going to do a little prep work. All right, so I'm going to jump to here so that you can see this. So the first thing that we're going to do every time is we're going to go to y equals, we're going to turn the plot one on. So I've done that. Let's go to y equals, clear out any equations, boom. You can't see my calculator right now. I've done that. And we're going to turn our diagnostics on. So I'm going to go back to the calculator. So I'm not very smooth at doing all of this. And you're going to hit second, whoops, sorry, get out of the screen, be back on the main screen, and you're going to hit second 0, and your catalog is going to pop up. And what we're going to do is up here, this little A appearing means it's in the alpha mode, and anytime I type a number like 9, I would go to W. So I want to go to D for diagnostics, and if you look, where is D? So I'm going to press second 0, so I'm on this page, and then I'm going to press this X to the -1, so it jumps me straight to my diagnostics, right? I'm going to scroll down until I see diagnostics on, and I'm going to hit enter, enter, and I'm done. Now, if you didn't get that, you need to rewind and get that diagnostics turned on. It should say done. So I'm just going to clear that out. And now what we're going to do, I'm going to go back to this page, right? And we are going to be entering our data. So what we need to do is press the stat button, and under the edit category, choose one edit. And we're going to clear out any lists, which I've already showed you how to do. And you're going to do that by pressing clear enter. And then we're going to enter our data into L1. The X's will go there, and we're going to enter our Y's into L2. And make sure that you go slow to make sure it's correct. So going back to this, I told you to press stat, choose edit, so hit enter, clear out any list. So again, if you have numbers here, you go up to it. So L1's highlighted, hit clear, enter. Okay? So what I want to do is take this data, and I'm going to put 0, 4, and 24 in that order, 0, 4, 24. It doesn't have to be in numerical order. I'm just working left to right. So 0, hit enter, 4, hit enter, 24, hit enter. Now what I want to do is get the Y. So I'm going to right arrow over into L2, and I'm going to put them so that the correct X matches with the correct Y. So 9.6, 0, and 0. So make sure you see all your data, make sure it matches. So going back to this, oops, wrong. So what we're going to do is now we're going to, on step 5, we're going to view our graphed points just to see what they look like. So we're going to press zoom and then press the 9 button. So going back to my calculator, I'm going to press zoom and then 9, which is zoom stat. And it's going to zoom to hit these points. Or not. Hold on. I'm going to pause for a moment because I'm not quite sure what happened. All right, I realize I forgot to have you do something in that top step. So what I want you to go is go to where I press the Y equals button, and I want you to go up to plot 1 and hit enter. Okay, so it should be highlighted like that. And now I fixed that. We're going to press zoom 9, and my dots appear. So what we're going to do is force the calculator to make a parabola out of this, but you can see your 3 points, so that's what it should look like, okay? So again, how did I get those points to appear? When I didn't get them to appear, I had to go to the Y equals, I had to go to plot 1, hit enter so it was highlighted, and then I pressed zoom 9. So I should have had you press zoom 9 to start with, all right? Okay, so now let's get that data, let's get that equation. So going back to here, we're going to graph it for us. So what I want you to do is you're going to go back and press stat, and this time we're going to scroll over to calc. So I've pressed stat, scroll to the right for calc, and you're going to go down to option number 5 that says quad reg, which is quadratic regression. We're going to choose that option, and now you're going to have, depending on your calculator, a different set of data, or your screens will look. Okay, so I have the newer calculator and I have the older calculator, the different formats. So if you have the newer calculator, again, you are at a much more advantage than the 83, or if you have an 84 and it has the older operating system. What you need in the 83 is it should say L1 and L2. That's just the automatic default. If it doesn't, let's say it says something else, then I need L1 to be in the X list. So what I'm going to do is press, again, down here for L1 in blue. If it wasn't there, I would hit second 1 and L1 would appear. And if L2 weren't there, I would hit second 2 and L2 would appear. What you need to do is scroll down so that it says calculate, hit enter, and now it's going to come up with our equation. On this calculator, you actually just have to hit enter, and the same data appears regardless, okay? Now this one has this r squared at the bottom because I turned on that diagnostics, and this one doesn't have it on there. But what I need to do is take a, b, and c and put them in place of a, b, and c in the equation. So the function that's going to model it is going to be y equals 0.1 x squared minus, see I'm just filling everything in, 2.8 x plus 9.6. All right, write it down. If we ever get long decimals, we are going to round to the nearest thousand, so 3 numbers behind the decimal, or truncate. I don't know, we'll kind of decide that as a class. So what I want to do now is I want to start to be able to answer the questions. So here's the very important step that you need to note. So I'm going to go back to this page and just show you this step that's really important. So you're going to press enter until your answer appears. Great. Round your answer to the nearest thousands. Great. Write your equation down in its proper format. We did this one. And now you're going to go to your y equals, so right here, and you're going to type into your equation and you're going to press graph. All right, so let's do that. So I'm going to go to the y equals button and I'm going to type this equation in now. So it goes 0.1 x squared minus 2.8x plus 9.6. Remember, subtraction versus negative. And now I'm just going to hit graph, and you're going to see those points be forced to hit, or the graph to hit those points. So now I want to be able to answer, what is my lowest temperature? Well, the lowest temperature is somewhere down here. Okay? So what I need to do is adjust my window, and I need to get my y's to go a little bit lower. So right now my lowest y is -1. I'm going to put it like a negative. Make sure you hit -20. And I'm going to hit graph. And there we go. So we're back to all this calculator stuff. I need to find out what this point is. And that's, remember, where you go to second trace. You need to choose minimum 3. I'm going to go to where I think it is. And I'm going to move to the left. Hit enter. And then I'm going to move to the right of where I think it is, hit enter until I get it. Now the minimum temperature, the temperature is y, so my lowest temperature is -10, and that happened 14 hours after midnight. I don't know why it doesn't just make it 14. So my coldest temperature is -10 degrees Celsius. And now I'm going to answer, what is the average rate of change in temperature over temperature is decreasing. So I want to know this point to this point. So back to my graph, from here down to the decreasing point. So I'm going to get my values. So if x is 0, get that value, and where it decreased, it ended the decrease at this minimum. So 14 and -10. So the only thing I have to do is get this y value, which I can easily do if I go to my table. So before we go to the table, what I want you to do is actually press the y equals button and shut the plot off, because your calculator is going to get confused and give you a couple different y values. So we only want the calculator to see the equation. So now I'm going to go to the second graph. I'm going to go to the y equals, and it's this 9.6. And now we're going to do average rate of change. So I'm going to subtract my y's in top. 9.6, I'll take away -10, which means I'll have to subtract this the same way. I'll get -14 here. Up here I get 19.6. And average rate of change, this is all stuff from chapter 1, means I have to divide these. And I get -1.4. And I'm going to explain what this means in context. So this means everything is y in the numerator, and that is my degrees in Celsius, and everything in my denominator is an x, which are my hours. So basically what happens is the temp is dropping, and I know it's dropping because it's negative 1.4 degrees Celsius every hour. Okay, so we're kind of jumping straight into this and practicing in context. All right, let's try another one. Okay, we're back to the calculator. So again, going to the next example, we're going to get our calculator ready. So going back to our cheat sheet, every time y equals, clear out any equations. So let's do that. Let's turn our plot on. So I'm doing that. So let me show you screen to screen. So I've cleared out my equation. That's highlighted. I hit enter. And then the other thing it says in step 2 is to turn your diagnostics on. They're already on. We don't have to do that. So from there, what we're going to do is we're going to enter our data. So go to the edit, choose one edit, and then we're going to clear out any lists, which we'll have to do, and we're going to enter our new data. All right, so going back to here, I'm going to go to stat. I do hit edit, so just hit enter. I don't want these lists, so I'm going up to L2, hit clear, enter. And I'm going to go to L1 and I'm going to hit clear and enter. So this is empty. And we're going to enter this data. This is X, this is going to be Y, and under L1 just hit 10, enter, 24, enter. So I'm doing that kind of off to the side. So there are my X's, and then I'm going to go over to the Y, and I'll make sure to put their corresponding Y in there. So I'm typing that in, you're typing that in. And I just want to double check that I've got all my data entered correctly because it's really easy to mess up a number. Okay, so just double check that you're right. So while you're finishing that up, the launch angle of a baseball is the angle from the horizontal at which the ball is hit. So when I hit it and it starts to make this angle, you know, as a ball would, a baseball will travel shorter or further depending on the launch angle of the ball. The distances traveled for various launch angles are given in the table below. So these are the angles that they go, and then this would be the distance that they go. So, you know, obviously maybe if the angle is a little bit more, you might see that the distance going shorter, because that's kind of like that pop fly of a ball. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a scatter plot of the data on your calculator and determine what type of function it would be. So we're just going to get this data in here. All right. So again, going back to the y equals, make sure your plot is on. And to see these points in action, we're going to press zoom 9. And this is a parabola. This is a quadratic. Okay. So what we're going to do is, since it's a quadratic, we're going to get that equation. And again, just going here, what we're going to do is we're going to get the equation of best fit now. All right, because it matched, it says exponential, we're in quadratic now. So we're going to press stat, scroll over to calc, and follow the stat. I'm going to scroll to the right to calc, and it's quadratic, so I'm going to press option 5. And again, at this point, you should have L1 and L2 in there. I'm just going to scroll down, so to calculate and hit enter. And if you have this calculator, then remember, all you have to do is, once you do that, just hit enter, and we're going to get the same data. Now, I didn't put the new data in this one. This is our new data. So this is a lot of numbers. We're going to truncate. We're going to cut off after 3 decimals. So it's going to be y equals negative 0.178, cut that decimal off, x squared, right? Plus bx, so b is going to be 14.672x, and we will truncate. I'm making that decision. And then minus 18.304, I'm cutting the decimal off. So now we're going to use this equation to answer the questions below. So we need to go to y equals, and we're going to type this equation in. So make sure subtraction versus negative. Now, if you want to see how well this matches our points, I'm going to hit graph. And you're going to see it's going to do its best job to hit everything. So again, after I type this in, I just hit graph. And it's hitting it pretty well, right? So now we're going to use our questions to answer it. So according to your model, what is the angle that will achieve the maximum distance, right? So we want to go as far as we probably can, okay? So if our maximum distance, that's where we're going to look at y. So what I don't want are these dots anymore. So once I get my equation, you know, the dots are nice, but we're done with them. Go to your y equals and shut them off. So go to plot 1, hit enter so it's not highlighted. And now we're going to hit graph, and it's just going to plot the equation. And we're going to be finding the maximum. So I'm going to hit second stat or second trace to go to calc. I'm going to choose 4 for maximum. I always go to where I think it is, and then when it asks me go to the left, I hit left a couple times. We did this in the first chapter, hit enter. And then when it says right, I go back to where I think it is. I think it's there, but now I'm going to go to the right, hit enter, guess, hit enter. And again, I want the distance, so I only care about the y, so 284, and we will go 3 decimals, 0.038. So my maximum distance is this 248.038 feet. And, oh, I'm sorry, I answered the question wrong. What's the angle? Well, the angle, that's x. So 41.213 degrees, and the maximum distance, sorry, I didn't read that very correctly, okay? All right, according to your model, how far would a baseball travel with the launch angle of 32 degrees? So if they're giving us the launch angle, remember, they're giving us x. So if x is 32, sorry, you can't see that. If our x is 32, we're going to figure out what the y value is. And the easiest way to figure out if x is 32 is go to your table. So hit second graph, and we're just going to work our way down until I get to 32. To me, that's just the easiest option. Some calculators go slower and faster, but there's 32, and it's 268.93. So how far would the baseball travel? 268.93 feet. All right, according to your model, what launch angle? So we'll have to figure out what x is when the distance is 200. So that means I'll be putting 200 in for y, like this, and this is where we will use the idea of a system of equations. And what we're going to do is we already have this in y1, we're going to put this one in y2. So I'm going to go back to y1. And the table doesn't quite tell me because I can't quite see where it's 200. So I'm going to go to y and put in y2 200. And then I'm going to hit graph, and I hope it shows. And it does. And if you notice, it's actually going to hit it twice. So we're going to have to solve for x twice. And we want to see where these intersect. So you're going to hit second trace and choose intersect. You're going to choose option 5. And you're just going to move your calculator over to where you think it is. And once you get there, just hit enter 3 times. All right, so for 200, one of them would be 19.485. That would be one launch angle. And then the other launch angle would be where they intersect over here. So second trace again, choose option 5. I'm just going to move my way over there. So I'm just hitting the right arrow. And once I get up to where I think it is, enter 3 times. And the other launch angle is 62.94. And I'm just going to cut it off, 1. And that would give me that same distance. So the other one is 62.941. And it's an angle, so I'll put a little degree marker behind it. And that is quadratic regression. Now, I realize there is one. Nope, that was it. That's pretty fast. So what I would like for you guys to do is to do a little bit of practice on page 29. All right. I am going to help you get the first one, your data in there, and I will help you get the equation. So just to practice this one more time, right? So go to y equals, clear out these equations. We don't need them anymore. All right. we will need to make sure that that plot is turned back on then. Anytime you want it to graph the points, you need the plot one on. So I'm going to press Stat now. I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to put in this new data, and I'm going to clear out these lists. So scroll up, hit Clear Enter, go to L1, Clear Enter. And now we got our X's and our Y's. Just type them in. Don't go too fast. And make sure all your data is correct. Then I scroll over and I type in their matching Y's. Okay, so it looks good. I'm just double checking. And now we're going to have the calculator come up with the data. So if you want to see what it looks like, just quickly press Zoom 9. You can see the points, right? And what we're going to do is, boy, did I type something in wrong? I did, so hold on. What did I mess up? I did 84, not 8.4. Oops, caught that mistake. All right, the rest I think are good. So I wasn't really paying attention, was I? Zoom 9. And there's my parabola, okay? So what we're going to do is find that equation. So now that I can see the parabola, I'm going to press Stat. I'm going to scroll over to Calc, choose option 5, and now all of this mat, go down to Calculate, hit Enter. The other group, just hit Enter until this appears. And we got a lot of decimals, so we're just going to cut them off and write our equation. So y equals negative, I don't have a lot of room here, 0.117 x squared plus 2.112x plus, and I'm running out of room, 4.215. So write it down, and then you're going to go to y equals, you're going to enter your equation. Make sure you're paying attention to negative versus subtraction. I typed it wrong. So you're typing as I'm typing, 2.112x plus 4.215. We do not want this plot on anymore. We don't want the calculator to work with the dots and the curve, just the curve. So hit Enter so it's not done. You can hit Graph, and then you will answer using the function, find the maximum height. So you'll do your second trace and choose max. And then I guess I'm going to have you finish this. So do this one, find the equation, and then estimate when the population will be in 2020. So this is the population since 1970. So when you're ready, 2020 is 50 years later. So you'll have to be finding if x is 50, and you can do that in your table. So what I'd like for you to do is try problems 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And then you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to put this into L1, this into L2, and then you'll go to look at your table and see if x is 6, what's that y value? It's one of those. That's it. That is your video for the week. It was a longer one. I do apologize. So I'll see you in class. Bye.